It's about the war, the fighting that Shimon and Levi had with Shechem to get back Dinah. So if we fast forward to Parshas Vayechi, the Torah tells us that Yaakov is speaking to Yosef, and he says, "V'om Yisrael Yosef v'nei Nochi Meis here I'm going to die." He says, "V'ani nasati lecha Shechem achar al achecha." I gave you, the first explanation in Rashi is, I gave you the place called Shechem. Asher lakachti miyad Amori, which I acquired. Becharbi ubakashti. Yaakov says, I acquired the place of Shechem with my sword and my bow. Becharbi ubakashti. And the Gemara says, in Maseches Baba Basra, and the Targum over here says the same thing, that becharbi ubakashti doesn't mean the physical sword, doesn't mean the physical bow, but it means his tefillah. His tefillah, that's in the cherev, the sword, and his bakashos, his requests, that's in the word bakashti, in my bow. And the Meshech Chachma says, what is this idea that our tefillah and our bakasha is represented by a sword and a bow? And he explains that there are two parts to our tefillah. One part of our tefillah is our standard nusach, the text that the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah, the Nevi'im put in our siddur, the words that we find every single day in our siddur. That's one type of tefillah. Then there's another type of tefillah that we make up. It comes from our heart, our personal requests that we have to Hashem, depending on our own situation, our own circumstances, depending where we are, when we are, things that we want to speak to Hashem about. That's a second area. And he says there's a very big difference between the two. He says when it comes to the standard tefillah, the standard text, you don't need as much kavana for it to work. Here, these words were set up by the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah. They're powerful words with a lot of depth and layers inside it. And simply reciting them works. When it comes to my own personal request, there it's a whole different story. My own personal request has to come from a deep, sincere place where I really am thinking about what I want and why I want it and do I need it, and going ahead and asking that from Hashem. And the Meshech Chachma says that that's the difference between a sword and a bow. A sword is automatic, right? You walk up to the wall, you stick it in the wall, it makes a dent, it makes a hole. You walk over to a person, you stab them, it kills them. It's automatic hit. When it comes to a bow, it's not this way. Okay, you have to pull it back, you have to aim, you have to shoot for a certain target. The more you pull it back, the deeper it's going to go. There's a whole process to the shooting. The same thing, he says, is our tefillah. Our tefillah, again, reciting the standard words that the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah set up, that is a hit. Automatically, it's going to work with minimal effort, minimal kavana. But when it comes to our bakashos, our personal requests, that we have to go deep inside ourselves to make sure that they're sincere, they're real, and we need them, etc., that is more like a shooting with a bow. It has to come from a deep place, and the more kavanah you have, the more you pull that bow, the more you're able to go ahead and shoot it out. And the Meshech Chachma explains, and this is more elaborate in the Marsha, in the Gemara in Baba Basra. He points out that these two tefillos are needed for two different types of enemies that we have. For example, when it came to Esav, the pasuk says the bracha that Esav got was al charbacha tichya, and the sword you're going to live. So Esav was someone who worked with a sword. He was a murderer. He stabbed. So you want to go ahead and fight the enemy, the physical enemy of Esav. So we have to go ahead and we have to daven with our swords. We have to go ahead and say the tefillah that was set by the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah. Yishmael, the pasuk says, he was a rova kashes. He was like a bow. And to fight that, Yishmael shoots, okay, modern day as well. They shoot from the middle of nowhere. It's quiet. You don't know where it's going. They shoot random into the places. They try to aim. They try to hit. It just shoots. They shoot from afar. They're not coming man-to-man type of battle and combat. That's what Yishmael and his descendants are all about. They shoot from afar. they pull, the more strength they have, the more that shot is going to go, and it has its impact. To fight Yishmael, we need the keshet. We need to go ahead and we need to daven with our bows, that we have to think and take time deeply to concentrate and focus on what it is that we want to go ahead and daven. What do we want? What do we need? And ask for Hashem. Sometimes we think we need things, but we don't think to put it into our tefillah. But the Kesha teaches us that no, you have to go ahead and it requires thought. You can't just walk into davening, open up my sitter, and start to daven. That's only a cherev. If you want to shoot like a bow, you have to plan. You have to set up those missiles. You have to figure out what the fuel is going to be there. What are you going to use? How strong are you? How are your muscles? Maybe you have to work out a little bit to pull that bow far back. Maybe you have to think a little bit about tefillah. Think about Hashem. Think about what Hashem means to you. Think about all the good things Hashem gives to us. Think about how we're always dependent on Hashem. Think about how all the times that we've asked for things and Hashem actually gives it to us. We have to actually spend time to focus in order for us to launch that keshet. There's an amazing marmakom. I have to thank Rabbi Wolf, the finder of all marmakomos. In the Sefer Nefutzos Yehuda, was written in the 1500s by Rabbi Yehuda Muscaro. And he says over there in Drush Memdal, an amazing thing. We know that at the end of the Mabul, Hashem put a rainbow. We have a rainbow in the air, saying Hashem says that it's not gonna happen again. So the Ramban already asks, what's the deal? The rainbow is like an upside down smiley face. It's not going to happen again anymore. Like we should be smiling and happy. Should have been like this. Right? Why is it that the rainbow has its legs on the bottom? Okay? Ein Sham B'Ramban. But the Nefutzos Yehuda says a different answer. He says because what it's really teaching us, it's not a smiley face. It's a bow. And it's teaching us that the way the bow works is that we have to shoot up to Hashem. It's face down, because that's where the bow is. We're shooting up our tefillah to Hashem. And when the Mabul, which came from Gezel, there was Hamas in the world, and that's why the Mabul had to come. Right? There was a lot of bad things going on, but it was signed. The destruction had to happen because of the Geneva, because of the stealing, which happens to be the midah of Yishmael, that the Gemara says, the Medrash says, the Sifri says that when Hashem was giving the Torah to all of the other nations, they went to Yishmael, would you like to have the Torah? And Yishmael said, what is it saying there? It says, lo signov, you're not allowed to steal. He said, oh, lo signov, it's in our DNA. Yishmael said, we're not interested in that. We can't go ahead and take it. Yishmael was about Geneva. The Mabul was about Geneva. And for Geneva, which is hidden, you don't always know that people are ripping you off. You don't really know that people are stealing. It's somewhere, it's a force that comes from behind the scenes with certain tactics and strategies, and it's not clear. That's similar to shooting the keshet. You shoot the keshet where you don't know where it's going to land. You don't know how much strength. It's not as impactful and automatic and clear as the knife coming and stabbing someone with the cherev. So that represented, the rainbow is a keshet to remind us that you got to daven. You got to go ahead and pull back far and shoot up to Hashem. Yeah, the bow is shooting towards Hashem. We're shooting at Hashem. When things aren't good and things are difficult, what do we have to do? We have to go ahead and activate our tefillah. And that's what Yaakov did. That is how Yaakov created this success in the war with Shechem, with his charbin, his bekashti. And really it's a message for everyone forever as we continue to fight the enemies of Esav and the enemies of Yishmael, and they're shooting from all over the place, and they have certain strengths, and they're able to do it, and they can land wherever their destinations are. We have to realize that the way to fight them back is in our tefillah. It's in our tefillah, and it's in our sitter. That's part of it. That does have a direct impact, but it's even more than that, is in our keshet, is in our bow. That we have to actually think. We have to spend time thinking about what we are asking for from Hashem, even things that we think are automatic. Fortunately, okay, now there's a ceasefire, right? So people say, okay, there's a ceasefire, and we haven't heard so much news from down south either, so things are pretty much chilled. And then so we don't have to daven as hard. Right? We don't feel like, oy vey, what are the news going to bring tomorrow? Like we could become desensitized because of the news to not feel a pressure, not feel an urgency, not feel like we're in a terrible situation that we have to go ahead and pour our hearts out like maybe we did a year ago. So that's bad. That's a bad thing. I mean, we don't want to feel that urgency, but it's a bad thing that we then don't have that external pressure for us to go ahead and work on our tefillah. This is a time that we must be working on our tefillah, not just coming in the morning and davening mincha and marv. That's for the babies. I'm saying that's obvious. I'm saying that's not like something that we're working on. That's obvious. Okay, that's if you're a basic Jew, that's what you do. But it's more than that. How do we improve that tefillah? How do we stay a little bit extra and daven? How do we add into our own tefillah worries? We should think about what's going on. We should be worried, and we should care, and we should be sad, and we should be nervous, and that should allow us to go ahead and turn to Hashem. But you got to develop that. You need a few seconds to think before you go daven. You can't just like run in there and roll out. It doesn't work. If you want the keshet, if we want that bow to work, we have to pull it back really far. That means with effort and strength and muscles to go ahead and think with our mental energy of what we need, how we need it, and then be able to go ahead and shoot it out towards Hashem. There's Hashem. That all our tefillahs are going to work, and our bows are going to have as big, if not bigger, of an impact that the sword does. And Bezrat Hashem, we're going to see a Yeshua, we're going to see a salvation for all of Klal Yisrael, the Meher V'Yameinu.